Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Hope everybody's doing. Karl Bryan coming at you for Business Coaching Secrets. I have got a special treat for you this week as part of a little interview series where we go to our successful clients and chat to them about what they're up to and how they've managed to generate that success. I have got one heck of an interview coming up. And I'll tell you, he used to be a former cop. And if you've ever seen him with his shirt off, I can tell you that he looks like you wouldn't have wanted to mess with him. Let's put it that way. But I'll tell you what, he's a former cop turned uber successful business coach. He's married to his beautiful bride named Sabrina, who I have spent a lot of time with. And I got to tell you, he picked the good one. She is a sweetheart. They got two kids. I believe they're 22 and 15, a boy and a girl. He's a board member with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. He's a real community guy, and again, practicing what he preaches. He's won countless awards for sales and his business acumen, but really importantly, and how we end up here today getting interviewed, he's gone from 0 to 6 figures in record time with his coaching. He charges between $997 a month and $3,000 a month for some of his biggest bigger clients that he's managed to attract. And I got to tell you, he's an all-round great guy. So without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Kevin St. John, who I affectionately call KSJ. So there we go, KSJ. How's it going, my man?
Good. Thank you for the nice intro, Karl. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
You bet, buddy. Good to have you here. Tell us, on the beat, man, as a cop, tell us your craziest story. Tell us when you were in the trenches, as in not the business coaching trenches, but the law enforcement trenches. Give us a crazy story, man, to open her up.
Crazy stories. Nothing crazy. I had a lot of stuff. And the town that I worked in, we had a lot of, it's crazy, the domestic violence disputes. Those are, each one of those have their own characteristics. Some crazy people out there. We had drug busts. We had one of the big ones was a big heroin sting that we had been surveilling for months, and we went in at 3:30 in the morning with special ops. Did a whole big drug raid like you see on TV. So that was pretty cool. We got a letter of commendation from the chief of police on that. But that was a pretty crazy night. So it was fun.
I like the way you define it as pretty cool. Pretty cool. Doesn't sound too cool to me. Just a little FYI. It's funny. I got a lot of buddies. But that are cops, former cops, and a very good buddy of mine. What he says when he's a cop, and when I get called, nothing good's happening. And he's like, so off to work, man, putting on that uniform and marching. So thanks for doing what you did, man, when you were doing it. But here we are, man, former cop turned uber successful business coach. So I tell you, let's get into it. Well, sort of a little bit of your uniqueness there, but to me, KSJ, I felt like you stand out. Not only that big barrel chest, but you got a real unique way about being unique yourself, and I think you also are pretty good at helping your clients do that. Talk to me about setting yourself apart from other business coaches that you might be competing with, quote unquote, and maybe what you might want to do is delve into something you've done with your clients. But overall, I think you're really good at the uniqueness of this industry. Talk to me about that, would you?
Sure. So, there's a lot of business coaches out there. Coaching's gotten extremely popular over the past couple of years, everybody knows. And, everybody says they're a coach, life coach, relationship coach, business coach, strategist, whatever you want to call them. But, in speaking with several of them, they're all kind of doing the same thing, just giving them guidance. But a lot of them just didn't really have systems in place or, means to gain clients. So what I did is, decided to do live events. So what we do is we host live events every single week consistently. we'll run 8 to 10 live events, and we'll take a week off, regroup, and then start them back up. But it's kind of unique in the fact that you're bringing them in. And a lot of this is the direction of you, Karl, and Adrian through the Local Legends program, obviously. But we're kind of getting our name out there as like the kind of go-to. So people want to kind of, hey, what's this profit acceleration workshop all about? So we get the 10 to 15 business owners in a room. They do some light networking, maybe pick up a client or two, get some lunch, and then we run them through the presentation. And then at that point, we get them we make an offer for them to get into a Jumpstart 12 PAS, and and then we try to close them as clients. So, but consistency is the biggest thing, and knowing that Bank OZK, who we partner with and provide the event rooms, they know we're coming and they're welcoming us. It's a great opportunity for them to have a presence there and really promote us. They're sending out emails to their clients to attend the workshops, and just being consistent and setting ourselves out, because not a lot of people do it, or if they do it, they're very inconsistent, right? But people know, they go to our link, there's going to be a workshop every week that they can attend. So we're really pushing that, utilizing our CRM, and we created our own system to be able to make it nice and easy for the team. So we're constantly pushing out emails, text messages through our CRM, and just if they missed the last event or they didn't show up at the live event, they're the first ones coming to the next one. So we have a system that we put into place, which in talking to other coaches out there, is pretty unique about us.
Cool. What about with and give an example, like working with a client where you've helped them kind of set themselves apart?
I guess the most recently in mind is they're a massage therapy client.
Yep.
And I got them through local legends, of course. And essentially they were losing money, and it's a husband and wife business, and they were having a lot of turmoil within the relationship, within the business, losing business. So, we really kind of came together, and they really didn't have any marketing going on. It was terrible, right? They're just spending money on Google ads, not getting any return. So, we went in and sat down with them, went through their business, and we created a, market dominating position for them, which really, niched down and targeted to certain people in the area. We did one for snowbirds on Longboat Key. We live in Sarasota, so Longboat Key is a pretty affluent area. And she's picked up, she's picked up 6 clients from the campaign that we ran for her already. So that's just one example. Just really figuring out what the client wants, who they really want, what their strengths are, what they like, what they don't like, who they want to target. And then we create a campaign. It's been pretty successful so far.
I love it. Okay, so you just isolated target, like what she did is she isolated an affluent area, sounds like, right? So talk to me about target audience, and you've managed what I have seen, you're pretty good at isolating. Look, this is what my ideal client you're good at the target audience bit. I want you to talk to that for a minute, would you?
Sure. Well, one thing I don't know if you knew about that, Karl, but when I was living up in Massachusetts, I owned a landscaping company. So I ran that. Yeah, I ran that. I sold it. So I'm very comfortable with landscapers, obviously. So I know their talk. I know what they're going through. So I kind of niched down into landscape, hardscapes. And I also really like to work with like HVAC trades industries, HVAC plumbers, contractors, landscapers, roofers. So I feel that I'm really on a good level with them. So I chose to niche down into those areas rather than, now I'll take on a doctor or a lawyer, but I'm more comfortable being in that industry myself in one of those fields. I know how those businesses run, and plus my history in what I did previously with my other stuff. So I find that those are the best ones that I can work with.
Yeah. For anybody listening, by the way, if I just take a mirror and I put it in front of KSJ, that's what he just defined. He defined himself, and you are going to find that your ideal, and this isn't but this is pretty consistent, right? If you want to know what your ideal client looks like, put a mirror in front of you and you'd be looking at him, right? Like again, KSG, I used to own a landscaping company, right? Again, he was in the trenches, getting his hands dirty. That's the kind of company that he worked with. He was successful with. He sold it. He exited, which again, very few can say that. And then he likes to work with similar business. There's zero surprise there. So again, as you're helping, you're trying to isolate your audience. and you're trying to help your clients isolate theirs, that's something you want to be thinking about. But very, very cool. I also want to speak to there's a saying, and I want to, your local live events and the importance of them. There's a saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And the truth is that is incorrect, or I'm going to call it incomplete. It's who knows you. That's what really matters in marketing, right? And especially as a business coach, not who you know, but who knows you. And that's where the magic, not only do they know KSJ, but they know him as the guy that's running the local live events. And he said a word in there earlier, I hope you guys picked up, but consistently, right? So doing an event and then measuring the results and deciding if you're going to do another one in a couple of weeks is the wrong approach. When KSJ got going, he 100% committed to doing a weekly event consistently for an extended period of time, which the number that we put out there is 10 weeks for the local legends group that he mentioned. But there's a lot of magic in that, right? And notwithstanding, you want people, they say that most people would have you think that greed runs the world, and the truth is that it's envy. So when you're running those local live events, so when Kevin's running those local live events, you don't want to make people envious of what you have, and that would be the guy on Facebook with the Lamborghini. You want people to be envious of who you are and what you are, right? And again, I want you to think of big brother, big sister that Kevin spends an insane amount of time helping out, right? Anyway, so target audience, I love that. Would you agree with everything I just said there, Kevin? Anything you'd add there, bud?
No, 100%. That's accurate.
Cool. Okay, so I want to go to, so now we've talked about getting some clients and kind of standing out, isolating kind of who they are. What about like unique coaching methods and techniques that you'd employ? Do you do anything a little bit differently than them, or walk me through, like, you get this client, the landscaper, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. Talk to me about the methods and techniques you'd use
To get the client.
Look, you could do that, or I would more, what I was referencing is actually the work that you're doing with the client, but why don't you answer it both ways if you want? Methods to get the client, and then methods and techniques to support the client. How about that?
Sure. Fulfillment. I get it. Yeah. So to get the client, like I said, we do live. I mean, I get clients from other avenues as well, but get them into a workshop, and then at the end, we get them into a Jumpstart 12 or for the profit acceleration software, run through that, find them the $100,000, and then simply ask them, do you want our help implementing this? Right. And of course they say yes. And then we get into, you kind of feel out which program they'd be best for, whether it's one-to-one, group, or whatever else, or, what their affordability is or their willingness. So we get them into a program. And then on the fulfillment, we're very, very hands-on, right? So, they can call us, text us whenever they want, but we schedule our weekly meetings. We get them to watch videos through the Business Academy, so they understand what we're talking about. So holding them accountable. So what we find is they got to be held accountable. So there's several touch points with them, because what we want to do, as you know, Carl, is you get clients and you want to keep the clients, right? You don't want to have buyer's remorse. So we do have an onboarding process that we do, expectations where they're agreeing, they're signing off that this is a do it with you, not a done for you. So the expectations are very, very clear. What's expected of them, what's expected of us. So that makes for a good relationship, because in coaching, it is a business relationship, but it gets very personal. I'm very close with my clients. Asking them before we even start talking business, it's, how's things at home? How's the kids? How's the wife? Making sure that everything's going there, because, if things bad are going on at home, they can trickle into the business, vice versa. So we want to make sure they're on a good thing, celebrate their wins for the week, their losses, their challenges, what they overcame, go through just the basic stuff before we really jump into it. But, it's very, very well mapped out. Obviously our system helps us stay on track with that, but, just really holding them accountable and holding ourselves accountable, and make sure that we're achieving the results that they're expecting and what we expect of them. So it's there's no gray areas, let's put it that way. And I feel that doing that makes the relationship much better, because you don't want people to have unknown things or any surprises. So that's what we found has been working very well in keeping our clients, and the retention, and having them renew with us every single week, every single month.
I love it. And remember, I always like to say to somebody, kind of getting their coaching client cranking, and they inevitably attract a few clients that are not ideal, if you know what I mean, as in trying to take somebody from broke to no longer broke. And if you want to have a great coaching business, you got to have great coaching clients, right? Taking somebody from zero to broke, or from broke to less than broke, is 100 times harder than it is taking somebody who's successful and then making them uber successful. Um, Again, and then if you were to ask me why and drill down, it's just psychology. The reason that they're broke, psychology. And of course, that's a sweeping black and white statement to something that is not black and white. But generally speaking, put 100 people in front of me that are broke, I'm going to introduce you to 100 people. I'm going to introduce you to 80 people with broken psychology. The end, right? You put 100 people in front of me with 7-figure businesses with healthy profit margins, and I'm going to introduce you to 80 people with a healthy mindset around growing a business and wealth, right? So taking somebody, you want to have a great coaching client, you want to have great clients. And I would just say, KSJ, I'd like to see if you agree with this, but I'd imagine you would. And that's it. In fact, I wrote this in a daily email not too long ago, but like a description of New York, okay, and let's just call that the end goal, okay? So you're in LA, you're trying to get to New York. Describing what New York looks like shouldn't be confused with the roadmap to get to New York, right? You follow that? Like people have these dream boards, and it's like, they got the Lamborghini and they got the house on the water and the vacation and the family picture and whatever else they got, right? That picture, which is great. And dream boards, good idea. A significantly, and I mean significantly better game plan is to, okay, the Lamborghini costs 300 grand. And in order to take 300 grand and effectively light it on fire to buy a car that's dependent upon its year, but going to depreciate reasonably in a healthy way, not to mention you get a flat tire, you need to get it serviced, the clutch goes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The battery goes, it's just significantly more expensive to maintain a car like that than it is your Hyundai, right? Despite the fact that you drive it significantly less. So we got to create a roadmap to allow ourselves to light 300 grand on fire. Paint me a roadmap that basically gets you to the point where that is possible, right? So again, that is a 7-figure business plus, plus, plus with the profit margins, et cetera. Okay, boom. We defined it a little bit better than just the Lamborghini. Now we need to go back and say, okay, how much lead generation? How many leads? 100. What are the conversions? 20%. That's 20 clients, right? If you brought in 100 leads and you converted 20 of them, you would end up with, that are 20% conversions. And then how much are those 20 going to need to spend with you in order to get to the number? And let's call that $1 million. And then, by the way, we got to 1 million, but remember, everybody wants to grow their business to $1 million. What's the problem with that? That means nothing. You could get to $1 million, achieve your goal, and then lose money. You could achieve your goal, get to $1 million, have really slight profit margins, and only make 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. You know what I mean? And that is not a good roadmap. To make $1 million a year in gross revenues and only put 50, 75, 100 grand in your jeans that stays, that is not going to allow you to buy the Lamborghini in any way, shape, or form, let alone service that Lamborghini. So that roadmap sucks, right? And again, in order to get those leads, where are you going to get them from? Facebook. Okay. If you're going to do it on Facebook, how much are you going to need to spend? Who is going to create the headline? Who is going to create the ad? Who is going to create the landing page? Who is going to measure the campaign? Who is going to have a feedback loop to go make the adjustments at the front of the campaign to make sure the back end is super profitable, et cetera. So basically what I'm doing is I'm defining a roadmap. It's one thing to say I want to get to New York and see a picture of Manhattan. And it's a whole nother thing to say, okay, you're in LA and this is where we're going to go. And by the way, when you drive from LA to New York, you know what I can guarantee is going to happen? There's going to be a detour. There's going to be an accident. There's going to be a storm. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. And then it's okay. Well, you're going to need to detour. Well, when you try to drive your business from zero to $1 million, what can I guarantee? That there are going to be problems unforeseen that you don't know about. Right. So anyway, to that point, we're just talking about, coaching methods, KSJ. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that The mistake that I see a lot of the time is the description of New York and then not the roadmap to New York. And please give me the roadmap rather than the description all day long, twice on Sunday. And a falling down of the average business owner right there. By the way, would you agree with that? Anything you'd comment on there, KSJ? You agree with
Yeah,
that?
that's absolutely accurate. Yep, the roadblocks, and like I said, it all looks good at the end, but how do you get there? And
Yeah.
it's it takes time, takes patience, takes strategy, and exactly what you said. Yep.
Yeah, and then you mentioned accountability, but then also the motivation, right? Like when you get D2, what happens when you get three detours in a row? What do? Turn around and go back to LA? Well, no, you got to keep going. Again, the GPS says that you're going to get to X, but you got to deviate. You got to deviate. You got to deviate. You got to make sure that motivation. It can't just be money, by the way. That's the person that turns around and goes back the other way. You got to have a deep-seated why. And no doubt we're all coaches. Most of the audience here listening don't need a significantly larger why, possibly a more well-defined why, but generally speaking, people get into this space for all the right reasons, but a very strong, tight, succinct why would be a good idea. But anywho, so look, I want to keep moving here. What about you've touched on this a little bit, but I want you to kind of define it. You've managed to get clients quicker than the average coaching bear by a long way. Talk to me about the marketing of your coaching services.
So I obviously local legends is a big thing. Those events are huge attractions.
Yep.
To get people into the PAS, to get into clients. I also belong to the Manatee Chamber of Commerce. I belong to a BNI chapter as well, and I do a lot of local networking events. So I try to get out to at least 3 networking events a week consistently, and not but there's a couple that I stick to, right? So they have to know, like, and trust you, know what you do. Schedule those one-to-ones with them, really get them to know, and like I said, it's who they know, right? It's so introduce me to your CPA, introduce me to a business broker, expand your network. So just try to, obviously meet as many people as you can and educate people on what you do. But sitting in a house isn't going to do it. I mean, some people have success with social media platforms such as Lineable, LinkedIn. That's not my style. I'm a very in person, and that works differently for everybody. But I'm a very in person, shake your hand, look you in the eye type of an individual. And that's brought me a lot of contacts. So people that I would never met outside my circle, but just asking for introductions to different people and getting in front of them and promoting our coaching services. We have marketing material, we have all kinds of stuff. So we dumb it down for people that that want to just send it out to their. I have an insurance agent who has 1,000 contractors. He does workers comp. He's sending out a brochure and a whole bio of what I do to his clients to try to introduce us. So, and he's actually up in Massachusetts. So, but I told him about what I was doing. He was really interested in it. And he said, I think this is a great service I could offer to my clients to bring them value. So just kind of thinking outside the box, but really essentially it's just, sitting down with people, letting them know what I do, inviting them to an event. So I'll invite the CPA that I know. I invite that business broker that I know, or that banker, that commercial banker, or whoever, so they can come in, see what we can do. Because I always tell them, I can't explain to you in this, 15, 20 minutes or an 8-minute presentation about what we do. So I encourage them to come to an event, really check it out, bring a client, bring a prospect, and learn about us that way. So that's kind of how I go about doing it. And it's worked really well. So I just get out there and I'm in my community, and I do Facebook stuff and social media, Lineable stuff. I do that, but I really focus on this area and just becoming the local go-to guy in this, Manatee, Sarasota County. And just being like you call it, Karl, the local legend in this area. So, it's funny. I have a client who's moving down from Buffalo, and he's, I'm helping him get acclimated into the community. He's an IT guy. He just, we ended up meeting for coffee, and he took me on as a client, I took him on as a client. So, but, he's like, yeah, he goes, being down, he goes, I talk to people and they hear your name and they know about your events and all that stuff. So the good news is it's getting out there, right? But again, that consistency of being out there and doing these events every week, I think, is definitely attributed to a lot of that.
Yeah, I love it. So anybody listening, I think you're going to agree with this, but your marketing should impact at least 20 times as many people as your coaching ever had, right? You're like that. That's what you just encapsulated. This guy just moved to Sarasota, where you are and he heard about you and you've got name recognition, it's on the back of doing your regular local live events. It's not on the back of your clients, it's on the back of your marketing. Do you agree with that? Is that
Yes.
basically what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
And I do the same thing. Like I said, I get a daily email, get 100,000 people, over 100,000 people get my daily email every single day. Do this podcast, doing marketing all over the place, doing all kinds of, just different group calls, etc. So thinking about that though, I don't think the average coach is thinking along those lines. They're thinking about doing a local live event, and then it's like, how many clients did I get? And they're thinking ROI, 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 and of course you should be, looking directly at that. But what you should also be doing is doing what KSJ has done, and that's just be willing to buy into the consistency that if I put it out, it's the rule of reciprocity, right? If you do enough good, and when I say good, legitimate good, like KSJ is good, KSJ, if you look at your very first presentation and then you look at your last presentation, you'd probably cringe at your first presentation. Is that fair to say?
I would say very fair. Yes. Yes.
And that's it. But at the time you didn't, right? You probably thought it was great. Like, you know what? I did a pretty darn good job, right? And you
Sure.
did. With what you knew, you did the absolute best that you possibly could. But now after doing it over and over and over again, you just so much, it's the principle of compounding is what it is, right? So
Yeah.
anyways, and then notwithstanding, you literally said this, but I said it earlier, it's not what you know, it's who you know is what, the common vernacular. But the truth is, who knows you? This guy's new to town. He's like asking who's the guys and gals that I need to know. Kevin's name comes up, and when he drops Kevin's name, he has his name recognition, brand recognition. Oh yeah, that's the guy that does the local live events, right? That's why the program is called Local Legends, because that's literally what happens. Remember, Tony Robbins gets paid for who he is more than he does for what he does. Does that make sense? So he gets paid for who he is, not what he does. Dan Kennedy is the same. All the big names are the same. They get paid for who they are, not what they do. This is the goal. But that will not happen without the who knows you. Anyway, so very good, very good. I love it. So that's, again, marketing of coaching services is something that KSJ has proved to be very good and frankly passionate about. You heard, actually, before I move on, I got to say this. Kevin, what you said is I'm out there constantly going to networking events. I'm a member of the chamber, I'm a member of BNI. I'm doing local live events. I'm putting myself out there. I'm educating local business owners. And then when I meet people, I'm asking for referrals. And then not only am I asking people for referrals, but I'm strategic about it, whereby I'm getting in front of the insurance guy with clients. I'm getting in front of the financial guy with clients. I'm getting in front of the accountant with clients. I'm getting in front of the bookkeeper with clients. I'm getting in front of the heads of the chamber with clients and small business owners and audiences. Is that, at the end of the day, is that what you said? And if it is, all you said is I'm doing the fundamentals consistently, which nobody else does, right? Or how did I do?
Absolutely.
Is that it?
You nailed it. You nailed it. Yep, you got it.
And from your experience, because again, you know what I mean? You've gone from 0 to 60, in an impressive clip. The others that are effectively competing against you, do you see that they are literally not doing this very basic stuff? And then they're looking at you going, how the hell are you doing this? And you're
Yeah.
sitting there looking at them going, man, what I'm doing is nothing overly impressive. I'm following the damn fundamentals, right? Fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah, fair to say. I often go and look at like who in my area is a coach or whatever else. And frankly, there's one other company I've heard of. None of the other 50 in the area, I've never even heard of them. So, but again, like I said, I would dare to say that they're not doing any kind of live events or anything like that. But since I did this live event, that totally changed my whole trajectory and my success doing this coaching. So to the means, that's when I said I'm going all in, and I had an insurance book. I just got rid of that, but I just saw the path and the system and everything, and so glad I did. It's completely changed my business, changed my life. So it's been really great for me.
You beauty. High five, my brother, and of course appreciate the kudos. Okay, so what about like business structure. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to talk to, because normally, like a lot of these other interviews, I'm talking to people that have been clients for literally a decade, right? Um, you have, set all this up in the not like yesterday by any stretch, but not that long ago. I want to talk to you about, business structure and the processes that, let's just talk to, KSJ when he got going, or a business coach is listening, looking to, take pen to paper and just get that first thing, their first bit of action to get this business going. Talk to me about business structure and just getting started from the real minute detail standpoint.
So for me, when I got involved with Focus, I really went in and really dedicated the time, used the resources that were available to me through the trainings and the calls and all the support that was allotted to me through Focus. And I really just jumped in on it and really got familiar with it, learned it, um, kind of made lists of all my contacts and who could be a good fit, created a marketing strategy through that to get the low hanging fruit, so to speak. And, just listen to my personal coach on, what to do, but you got to have a plan to kind of go in and execute it. And for me, it was, I try things this way, try things that way. And of course, some things don't work, some things do. But again, going back to be repetitive, it's when I started doing the live events that kind of everything decided, it really clicked. And I understood the need of kind of being out there in the community and just educating people what I do. So, I developed plans for lead generating, how to get the leads, which is networking and some cold emails, some campaigns, things like that. But going out to the networking events, inviting all the people in that particular networking group that I go to, whether it was a BNI or a chamber coffee club or a power lunch, inviting them to a live event. We actually made like a business card with a QR code on it. So they simply scan it. They scan it. It goes right to our registration page where they can sign up for a live event and they can select from one of the 3 events. So I give that to them. So it's easy for them to sign up to go to a live event. And, when you got them right in the room with you and you're talking to them, they scan it right there. Try to get them locked in at one of those appointments. And then my follow up, just to make sure they get to an event. It's a 24-hour email, text the night before, text the morning of, confirming them. So really making sure and they're accountable to get there because, obviously you can invite 30 people, 15 show up, whatever. So really being consistent and have that system put into place. So just kind of know,
Cool.
and kind of what you said before, know who you want to target. Like for me, again, the landscapers, the contractors, I really have my niche. I'm not throwing a really huge net. I'm kind of focusing in on where I want to focus, and that's how I create my materials. I create, it's just very familiar for me anyway.
Yeah, love it. One thing I want to add in there is business model. Just talking, structure. Like, I'll give you an example I've often talked about, right? Where you've got a grief coach. I want you to think about like a grief coach. At the end of the day, what are they paid to do? And that's to get somebody out of grief, right? Okay, well, the better they get, like what's the goal is to get them out of grief. And then what would happen when you accomplish your goal? And that would mean that surely you would lose your client, right? Because your job is to get them out of grief. And unless they have a monster family and are losing all kinds of people over a short period of time, which by the way would be nothing to laugh at, effectively success means lead gen for you, right? So like it's broken before you get started. Or like a career coach. What's the goal of a career coach? To get you a job, a raise, or a promotion. And then what happens when you're successful? You lose your client. And by the way, the better you get at it, the quicker you do it means the quicker you'd lose your clients. In a roundabout way, kind of like, the model is broken before you get going. And then what you find with successful grief coaches and successful career coaches and certainly successful life coaches and peak performance coaches, et cetera, they all end up in the business coaching space. And the reason why is that if you had a company doing $500,000 a year gross, when they got to $1 million, do they have more, without meeting them, do they have more problems or less problems at $1 million than they had at 500 grand? And hopefully the answer to that, everybody listening, is pretty obvious, right? The answer is more. And when they go from 1 million to 2 million, do they have more problems or less problems? And the answer is more problems. They got more staff, more contracts, more bad debt, more accounts receivable, more this, more that. You know what I mean? Like they got, higher level things to be thinking about. A rogue staff member, a rogue salesperson leaves and goes into competition. Okay, it's a huge problem. That has a significantly smaller chance of happening at 500 grand than it does at 2.5 million, right? The end. So there's just things that you need to navigate there that you otherwise don't need to navigate. So the good news is, as a business coach, and that's when you hear about, working with clients for like literally a decade, I don't need to meet that individual. And there's a really, really slim chance that is a career coach, grief coaching type dynamic, and even life coaching. Life coaches tend to get clients, lose them after 90 days and kind of start again, right? They get very frustrated. So the average life coach that would be good at it would suck at lead gen because the two personality types don't gel very well. So what happens is the life coach that's successful constantly has to do, if he constantly finds themselves in lead gen, it gets a little bit frustrating. So I just want folks to be thinking about, the structure, right? Like again, you got one-to-one coaching. How many, if you go do one-to-one coaching, 15 clients is where you're going to semi-max out. Yeah, you could handle 25 clients and 30 clients if you're really amped up, but generally speaking, use 15, 20 as your frame. That once you get 15 clients that are one-to-one and taking that much time away from you, you're going to struggle to go get another 15. Like, frankly, it's not going to happen, right? Because the 15 all need a slot on your calendar, right? Okay, so then what you need to be doing is what? You go into group coaching, but you should be doing one-to-one first and then move to group. Don't start with group before you get good at one-to-one. That would be a mistake, right? And then, by the way, if you want to know how to get, I've often talked about this, even like local legends, KSJ, you would have heard this 100 times. But if you want to get a $60,000 client, that's $5,000 a month for 12 months, right? That's 60 grand. If you want to get a $60,000 client off of a text message, the way to do it is with group coaching. Okay, so you have group coaching program that is successful with people lining up, getting results. You get the dynamic of a group talking about how well it's going and the successes of the week and helping the other clients, and just that cool dynamic that goes with group coaching. There's going to be, I don't need to be in that group to know if there's 20 people. There's a percentage of them that just don't want to live without your one-to-one time, and they don't care how much it costs. They just have to have you, right? It falls under FOMO, right? A fear of missing out. So they just want to have you, and that is how one of the magic pieces of group coaching and understanding that you should have it in your company is that group coaching leads to the really, really high-end one-to-ones, versus what most people do is they do one-to-one and then they say, I'm no longer doing that, I'm only doing group. And then what they do is they miss out on that $60,000 client. So you should go one-to-one, get good at it, move to group, and then have a very high-end one-to-one on the other side of the group that make it very, very hard to get into. And I'll just tell you this, I'll finish with this. When you listen to Tony Robbins get interviewed, what does he say consistently and more times than you could ever count if you listen to Tony Robbins early until late in his interviews? He talks about how his one-to-one clients are how much. If you're listening to this, I want you to fill in that blank. $1 million a year. I bet you've heard him say it a zillion times. Plus upside. What does he follow that up with? There's a waiting list of people trying to get into it, and I don't even have any time, right? And again, they pay $1 million for 12 months plus upside, right? There's a waiting list. Do you think it's accidental that he says that consistently? And the answer would be a hard no. So my question for you is, do you talk about your $60,000 program that's currently, and stay in integrity here, say what, is true and you're comfortable with. But at the end of the day, you could have only one spot for a $60,000 client, right? Well, then if you only had one spot, you could say that, look, there's a very limited, there's a very limited capacity that you have in order to take on that client. And you would be telling the truth if you only take on one client at that number. Anyway, so thinking, I just want to make sure structure was really good, KSJ. Glad you went over that, but also just thinking about things like understanding, business models and ascension ladders, and just making sure you got the the right framework moving in, and you got to have a business model that works. There's so many people out there that have business models that don't work. It's crazy. And if you want to know a good business model, it's one with recurring revenues. That's it. You show me a business with strong recurring revenues, I'll show you a strong business and a strong opportunity. You show me a business without recurring revenues, and I'll show you, well, it's a promotion, not a business, right? Think of a realtor. A realtor gets a client. The guy doesn't buy a house, or the gal doesn't buy a house. The family doesn't buy another house for 5 years, right? Very, very challenging, and that is why people go in and out of real estate with such consistency. But anywho, KSJ, I just wanted to finish with that. But what do you think? So let's finish it off with this. I want you to talk to Kevin St. John in his very first week or month as a business coach. What is the number one bit of advice you wish somebody would have given you when you were really, really on in your journey, knowing what you know now?
I would have to say, I go back to my favorite, do live events, follow the system, and just, go all in. If you really want to have a successful multi-6-figure, 7-figure business, my opinion, you have to go all in and just, dial in a clear roadmap and follow it, stick to it. That's what I would say, instead of just kind of doing it, on the side or here and there. Really dive into it and learn the business, and you're going to be super successful.
Yeah, I love it. High five. And that, okay, so an example that we see, and we've talked about in Local Legends countless times, is that an example of that is somebody they do a local live event and they manage to get 12 people in the room. They do the event, they do the appointments, they have the successes, the failures, get the clients, and the whole way they're deciding if they're going to do another event, right? Based on the fact of whether or not that one was successful. And that's not the right approach. The way that you've done it is, before you even did your first event, you had 10 events scheduled on the calendar, ready to go. And your psychology is you were 100% hell-bent that you were going to do 10 events in 10 weeks, whatever it took. That's kind of the difference, right? Is that basically what you said?
Yep, exactly what I said. Yep.
There we go. Awesome. Okay, KSJ, thank you so much, buddy. Super appreciate you. We appreciate your magic. And no doubt everybody enjoyed that. So we appreciate, my friend. Thank you.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.